Augustine Walter Telesford, also known as Beggs, and the missing man of Coles Gap, who resided at New Westerhall, St. David, passed away on Saturday, 6th May 2023, at the age of 75. Left to mourn are his wife Anna Telesford, also known as Teacher Anna, children Ricky Red Rat Telesford and Junior Telesford, Antoinette Castle, Roseanne DeGans, Dr. Devon Francis, and Kellon Edwards. Brother James Lewis. Sisters Cecilia Lewis and Cynthia Telesford. He was the stepfather of Janice and Philip George, grandfather of Marquise and Summer Castle, Trisha, Brittany, Ruth, Curtis, Kiana, Kira, Prince, Savannah, Morris, Josiah, Gabriel, and Shania. Great-grandfather of 3. Father-in-law of Mario Castle, Alana Telesford, Shellon Francis, and Gail Noel. Many nieces and nephews, including Pearl Ann, Anthea, and Carmi. Brother-in-law of Stephanie Telesford, Margaret, Lorna, Mary, Keithford, Aliana George, Velma, Pastor Terence George, and others too numerous to mention. Other relatives and friends, including the Men and Boys by Beggs Lambing Spot, Angus Steele, Kenneth Prime, Richard and Jonah, and others too many to mention. The Boys by Grant Shop, the communities of New Westerhall and surrounding areas, the Telesford family of New Westerhall, Woodlands, Willis, New Hampshire and Windsor Forest, the Licorice family of Corinth and Dudmar, the Antwine family of Brooklyn, New York, the Simon family of New Westerhall, and many other relatives and friends too numerous to mention. The funeral service for the late Augustine Walter Telesford, also known as Beggs, and the missing man of Coles Gap, who resided at New Westerhall, St. David, will take place on Friday, 2nd June at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Petite Bucaille RC Church, and interment will be at the Corinth Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Victor Lowe McIntosh, also known as Randy Jones of Mount Pleasant, Carriacou, passed away on Tuesday, 2nd May 2023, at the age of 56. He was the son of Victoria, father of Dante and Daquan in the USA, and Victor in Carriacou, grandfather of Rayla in the USA, brother of Debbie, Garth, also known as Nash, Devon, and Delisa, uncle of many including Rashid, Savion, Cameron, Kareem, Makaya, Denaya, and Carissa, grand-uncle of Messiah, brother-in-law of Donnelly, Andrea, Timothy, and Henville, nephew of Martin, also known as 52, Hubert, also known as Sonny, Patrick, also known as Alwyn, Alban, also known as Dundure, Michael, Lyris, Clarice, and Bernadine, close cousin of Garfield, Nicole, Matthew, Trevor, Sherma, Joel, Keith, Jenny, Teresa, Cornell, Wayne, Alfred, Aaliyah, Brian, Dornette, Danielle, Kimberly, Roxanne, and Bernard. Many other family and close friends too numerous to mention. The funeral of the late Randy Lowe McIntosh, also known as Randy Jones of Mount Pleasant, Carriacou, will take place on Friday, 2nd June at 2 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Sanctuary of Praise Marian Pentecostal Church, and interment will be at the Montgelou Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Dawson Darbo, also known as Dorsey Boy of River Road, St. George, died on Friday, May 19, 2023, at the age of 67. Left to mourn are his daughters Danielle Hilaire and Danica Darbo, brothers and sisters Albert, Carl, Cosmas, Evelyn, Glemma, Gloria, Irva, Jacinta, Maria, Myrna, Nelsia, and Teresa, all abroad in the USA, the UK, and Holland. Many nieces and nephews, including Glendolyn Grant and Alison George in the USA, Amanda Smith, Keisha Grant, and Calvin Grant in the UK, and Joan Gary in Canada. Many cousins, including Oswald and Janice Darbo in Grenada, Jerry in Trinidad, and Dorette in the USA. Son-in-law Kimani Hilaire, brother-in-law of many, including Jove Gary and Nesta Maxime. Grand-uncle of many in the USA, the United Kingdom, Trinidad, and Grenada. Grandfather of one. Other family and friends including the Darbo family of Victoria in the USA and the United Kingdom, the Maxime family in New York, the Gary family of Westerhall, the Phillip family of River Road, current and former members of the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Union and the Grenada Ports Authority, the management and staff of the St. Martin de Porres Home, Crowshoe, and friends and neighbours of River Road and surrounding areas. The funeral service for the late Dawson Darbo, also known as Dorsey Boy of River Road, St. George, will take place on Monday, June 5th at 12 noon. Funeral service will be held at the Garden of Remembrance Funeral Chapel, Cemetery Hill, St. George's, and interment will be at the Wilberforce Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Raphael John Thomas, also known as Green and Baff, of the Villa Victoria St. Mark, passed away on Sunday 14th May 2023 at the age of 70. He was the father of Cuthbert Charles, Neva, Akeisha, Orsky, and Nadisha Barry, stepfather of Rodney, Ron, Jason, and Wayne Barry, grandfather of Otterson, Meisha, Nathan, Zedhari, Jazinio, Ron, Sean, and Kellen, brother of Maria, Ben, Stephen, Ellen, Yvonne and Carol in Grenada, Evadine, Ina, Yvette, Daphne, Eugene, Owen, Joseph, Price, and Poxy in the USA, and Philip in Trinidad. Stepson of Catherine Scott, nephew of Vic Scott, brother-in-law of Gertrude Thomas, uncle of many including Dave, Antone, Gasson, Wayne, Neela, Maureen, Andy, Marina, Marlene, Andalyn, Stefan, and Gaynell, granduncle of many including Antonio, Garth, Nicole, and Uz. Caregivers Nurse Sheila De Silva, Denisha Phillip, Doreen Scott, and Lankar Charles. Many other relatives and friends including Stephanie Barry, Michael Sylvester, Vaughan Charles, Jerry Ann Barry, Roderick Crosby, Pat Fletcher, Chanel Sylvan, Kellon Paul, Miss Dawn, Merrill Tyson and family, the Scott, Martin, Thomas and Barry families, Hurricane and the Villa football clubs, past cricket umpires, and friends and neighbours of the Villa and surrounding areas. The funeral of the late Raphael John Thomas, also known as Green and Baff, of the Villa Victoria St. Mark, will take place on Tuesday, June 6th at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Victoria RC Church, and interment will be at the Coast Guard Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home.
Thomas A. George, also known as Mason and Sasae of Guave St. John, who resided at Upper Capital St. James St. Andrew, passed away on Saturday, 13th May at the age of 88. He was the father of Agnes, Albert, and Felix Lyons, Shirley DeRaveney, and Jeremiah George, grandfather of many including Kim and Jason Lyons and Kenisa Roberts, great-grandfather of many too numerous to mention. Sister of Erica John in the USA, Magdalene O'Brandy in the UK, and Cecilia Clark in Grenada. Caregivers Michelle Bernard and John Renerick. Many other relatives and close friends including Lyons and George families, Clark family, Esther Henry Fleury, the management and staff of the St. Martin Home for the Aged, Mrs. Yolam Bean Hotsford, Friends of St. Matthew's Roman Catholic Church in Birchgrove, and neighbors of Upper Capital, St. James, St. Andrew, and Guave St. John's surrounding areas too numerous to mention. The funeral of the late Thomas A. George, also known as Mason and Sasae, of Guave St. John, who resided at Upper Capital, St. James, St. Andrew, will take place privately. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home.
Yvette Cynthia Sears of Hope St. Andrew, who resided in the United Kingdom and at the St. Martin's Home, Crowshoe, St. Andrew, passed away on Wednesday, 24th May 2023, at the age of 71. She was the sister of Roderick Sears and Stanley Collier in Grenada, Ken, Selby and Leslie Collier, Wendy Dagbia and Lisa Noel in the UK, aunt of Nadia Collier, Fiona Alexander, Jade Dagbia, and Camden Montplaisir, Chelsea and Perry in the UK, Sean Collier, Ashley Dagbia, Julian and Warren Collier. grand aunt of Grace, Nicole, Tiana, Shantae, Noel and Leon, Kira Rose and Bo. Sister-in-law of Raphael Noel in the United Kingdom, Laurel Sayers and Virginia Collier. Many cousins, other relatives and friends including Faye and Twine, Gemma Braffett, Alwyn Sayers, Jennifer Lord in the UK, Shirley Felix, Suzanne and Cheryl Sayers in Trinidad, and friends and neighbours of Hope and in the United Kingdom. The funeral of the late Yvette Cynthia Sayers of Hope St. Andrew, who resided in the United Kingdom and at the St. Martin's Home, Crowshoe St. Andrew, will take place on Monday, June 5th at 10 a.m. Funeral service will be held at the Garden of Remembrance Funeral Chapel, Cemetery Hill, St. George's, according to Pentecostal rites, followed by cremation. Arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Bernadine Doris Jeremiah, also known as Mrs. Doris and Sis Jerry, of Maho, Crowshoe, who resided at Hope St. Andrew, passed away on Thursday, 18th May 2023 in the USA, at the age of 90. She was the mother of Mildred, Stella, Jean, Samuel, Vanita, Ezekiel, and Maudlin in the USA, and Glorine in Grenada. Mother-in-law of Terry Jones, Sylvester Johnson, Raymond Francis, and Barrington Johnson. Grandmother of 15, including Elliot, Natasha, and Ishmael. Great-grandmother of 8. Sister of John Paul in the USA, Lillian Pascal in Trinidad, and Cleve Paul in England. Aunt of many, including Veronica Paul, Elvis, Stephen, Miriam, Janice, Dossier, Roseanne Paul, and William Guillaume. Many cousins, including the Mantis family of Ladigue, the Jeremiah family of Felix Park, the John family of Union, the Regis family of Pomrose, Benedict Jeremiah, Past Leo Fleury and family, and the Phillips family of Carriacou. Former caregivers Brendan Nichols of Tuileries and Laverne Noel of the Villa Road Soubise. Many other relatives and friends, including the pastors, elders, and members of the Ebenezer SDA in New York, the St. David, Moncton, Crowshoe, and Soubise Seventh-day Adventist churches, Pastor and Sister O'Neill of Beauséjour, Pastor and Sister Andrews of Seamoon, Pastor and Sister Gittins of La Pastora, Brother Joseph and Sister Perlina Sylvester, Jeanette Agard and family, Brother Roll and Sister Gail Ferguson, Bernadette Joseph and family, Teresa Reason of Laborie, Mr. and Mrs. Stanley Mason, Phyllis Date, Mr. and Mrs. Wilmington, and Yvonne Wright of Hope, Carlisle James of Felix Park, and friends and neighbours of St. David, Crowshoe, Hope, and surrounding areas. The funeral service for the late Bernadine Doris Jeremiah, also known as Mrs. Doris and Sis Jerry, of Maho, Crowshoe, who resided at Hope St. Andrew, will take place on Thursday, June 8th in the USA. Funeral service will be held at the Ebenezer Seventh-day Adventist Church, Brooklyn, New York, and interment will be at the Pine Lawn Cemetery, Long Island, New York. Arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Roy Alfred Griffith of Woodland, St. George, passed away on Friday, 19th May 2023, at the age of 87. The funeral arrangements for the late Roy Alfred Griffith of Woodland, St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Irene St. Hilaire, also known as Mother, of Dudmar St. David, passed away on Friday, 26th May 2023, at the age of 95. The funeral arrangements for the late Irene St. Hilaire, also known as Mother, of Dudmar St. David, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Stephen Barry Cox of Redgate St. David died on Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, at the age of 61. The funeral arrangements for the late Stephen Barry Cox of Redgate St. David will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Jason Nicole Joseph, also known as Jay, of Vendham St. George, an employee of the Inland Revenue Department, Ministry of Finance, passed away on Thursday, 11th May 2023, at the age of 43. The funeral arrangements for the late Jason Nicole Joseph, also known as J of Vendham St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Kim McSween, also known as Kim Cooper, of Grandance, who resided at Willis St. George, passed away on Monday 29th May 2023 at the age of 49. The funeral arrangements for the late Kim McSween, also known as Kim Cooper, of Grandance, who resided at Willis St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Alice Agneta Foster of Deerforth Springs, St. George, died on Friday 26th May 2023 at the age of 87. The funeral arrangements for the late Alice Agneta Foster of Deerforth Springs, St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Anne Bridgman, also known as Auntie Anne of Byland St. Andrew, passed away on Thursday 25th May 2023 at the age of 97. The funeral arrangements for the late Anne Bridgman, also known as Auntie Anne of Byland St. Andrew, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Julian D. Augustine of Harmony Hall, St. David, died on Saturday 27th May 2023 at the age of 91. The funeral arrangements for the late Julian D. Augustine of Harmony Hall, St. David, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Rosanna Mitchell, also known as Tanti and Miss Rose, of Granton, New Hampshire, St. George, passed away on Friday 26th May 2023 at the age of 79. The funeral arrangements for the late Rosanna Mitchell, also known as Tanti and Miss Rose, of Granton, New Hampshire, St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Joycelyn Ringham of Montrose St. Patrick, who resided at Concord St. John, passed away on Friday 19th May 2023 at the age of 88. The funeral arrangements for the late Joycelyn Ringham of Montrose St. Patrick, who resided at Concord St. John, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Jason St. Ambrose Barry, also known as Patch of Shantimel St. Patrick, passed away on Saturday 27th May 2023 at the age of 48. The funeral arrangements for the late Jason St. Ambrose Barry, also known as Patch of Shantimel St. Patrick, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Matilda Lucina Clouden, also known as Lucina and Center, of Burgles-Carriacou, passed away on Sunday 14th May 2023 at the age of 92. The funeral arrangements for the late Matilda Lucina Clouden, also known as Lucina and Center, of Burgles-Carriacou, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Debbie Anderson of Birchgrove St. Andrew, who resided at New Hampshire St. George, passed away on Friday 19th May 2023 at the age of 59. The funeral arrangements for the late Debbie Anderson of Birchgrove St. Andrew, who resided at New Hampshire St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Imelda Lena Batiste, also known as Mama, of Shantimel St. Patrick, who resided in London, England, died on Monday, May 1st, 2023 in London, at the age of 67. The funeral arrangements for the late Imelda Lena Batiste, also known as Mama, of Shantimel St. Patrick, who resided in London, England, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Carlisle Wilson Joseph, also known as Kaya, of Willis, who resided at Molyneux St. George, died on Monday 15th May 2023 at the age of 81. The funeral arrangements for the late Carlisle Wilson Joseph, also known as Kaya, of Willis, who resided at Molyneux St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Raphael Joseph Mitchell of Café Crochet St. Andrew passed away on Wednesday, 10th May 2023, at the age of 93. The funeral arrangements for the late Raphael Joseph Mitchell of Café Crochet St. Andrew will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Pastor Dr. Adrian Leroy Marast, also known as Bill, of Hope City St. Andrew, passed away on Friday, May 5th, 2023, at the age of 75. The funeral arrangements for the late Pastor Dr. Adrian Leroy Marast, also known as Bill, of Hope City St. Andrew, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home.
The management and staff of MTV extend deepest condolences to those of you whose loved ones have passed on. Thank you for watching.
Death and dying are the inevitable events and realities of life. The passing of a friend or loved one often brings with it the feelings of sadness, grief, and pain. There is always the period of sorrow and mourning for those who experience such loss. Brothers and sisters, particularly in this time and season of how you feel and what you may be thinking as a result of the passing of your loved one, there is a source and means of comfort that you can tap into. That source and means of comfort is God and His Word that speaks specifically and directly to our situation. Hear the word to you today. He says, "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." What I believe He is saying through this verse to you and everyone that is now experiencing some measure of grief or sorrow, and what I also believe is implied in that which He says, are the following. Mourning is an understandable, normal, and real expression of your emotions. Mourning presents the opportunity for us to experience the comfort of family, friends, and loved ones. Mourning identifies us with each other in our humanity and morality. Mourning will not last forever. It is for a particular season and reason. Mourning connects us with the ultimate source and means of comfort that is always available to us, God, our Heavenly Father, through Jesus Christ. And so today, we look to the Lord in prayer, Him who is able to comfort us with the comfort that we need in times like these. God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God of comfort, we pray even now for those who mourn and are in need of your comfort. May your love embrace them. May your grace afford them the strength for each day and hope for tomorrow. May you inspire and motivate them to stand upon the promises of your word. And may your Spirit lead and direct them to the ultimate source and means of comfort which can be found in you and the promises of your word. This prayer we offer through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.